Greetings and welcome for all of you who are tuned in. We're coming to you live from TMH as we present you our daily English news. The headlines for today: drone strikes yet again hits Tigray's capital, Mekelle city. The Ethiopian government makes up a story of an offensive on new fronts by the Tigrayan forces this morning, and Sudan summons Ethiopian ambassador over alleged downplane that took place. Drone strikes hits Tigray's capital, Mekelle city. The capital of the northern Ethiopian region of Tigray was hit by a drone strike around midnight Tuesday local time, and the latest such attack that has been reported in just a few days. The bombings came after a resumption of fighting on the ground between the government forces and the Tigrayan forces as well. Nighttime drone attack. Mekelle is no conceivable in military attacks, as Getachew Reda, member of Tigray Central Command, said on his official Twitter account. He also added that Mekelle's hospital among targets, at least 3 bombs have been dropped. According to Reuters, a medical worker and an aid worker reported 3 explosions late on Tuesday in the city of Mekelle. One hit a neighborhood near Mekelle General Hospital, as tweeted by Kabrom Ghebreselassie, who is chief executive of Eider General Hospital, and he also said that the Eider Hospital had also received some casualties as well. The extent of the damage and the casualties was unclear, although an aid worker said at least 2 people had in fact been injured. Ethiopian government spokesperson Legasa Tulu, whose military spokesperson Colonel Geetnet Adana, and the Prime Minister's spokesperson Bilene Siyom did not respond to any requests for comments. Reuters were unable to reach other residents of Mekelle for confirmation because the region has not had a phone communication service since the Ethiopian troops pulled out more than a year ago now. A latest strike follows a hit on children's playground on Friday that killed 7 people, including women and children at large. Almost all of Tigray's 5.5 million people need food aid, but no humanitarian deliveries have entered for 9 days now. 2 United Nations officials have confirmed. And on Tuesday, Getachew said an offensive against Tigray had been broken and a counterattack launched again. He underscored the chokehold in the region, which has not had any banking, phone, or electricity services for more than a year now. Fuel restrictions have also limited aid distribution, while patients are dying for lack of medicine and equipment. Restoring services is a key demand that the government of Tigray forces before peace talks can commence. The Ethiopian government also said it wants to talk, but to begin without any conditions is impossible. After a week of renewed fighting, there are hopes for a peace deal have faded. Member of Tigray Central Command also says the Ethiopian government's claim of an offensive on new fronts by the Tigrayan forces this morning is just merely untrue. The Ethiopian government announced that the Tigray forces launched an offensive in several fronts, including Sakota, Hamdiat, and Dedebit. True to form, the regime is making up stories so that it would get away scot-free in the eyes of the international community, said Getachew Reda, who, again, member of Tigray Central Command, wrote on his official Twitter account. He said Abiy Ahmed's regime, along with the Eritrean handlers, are coordinating their efforts to turn this into a regional conflagration. If the deafening silence of the international community is anything to go by, this genocidal duo could very well get away with it. Getachew Reda said the Tigray forces are ready to defend themselves against all aggression, and that they are better placed to prevail against what he dubbed as an incongruable offenders. Whether the international community would read the writing on the wall is another matter. In related news, Tigray Defense Force Commander General Taddesse Warede also disclosed plans to open another front of an offensive against Tigray to control northwestern Tigray. In an interview with Tigray TV, the commander said an orientation was given to the effect to commanders of joint Ethiopian and Eritrean forces 2 days ago in the town of Barantu, Eritrea. According to the general, the joint offensive can start any time. General Taddesse Warede also said the ongoing counteroffensive by the Tigrayan Defense Forces aims at stopping the offensive and giving peace talks another chance. The people of Amhara, including Fano and the Amhara Special Forces, shouldn't be afraid, of the Tigrayan forces. This is not a war between the Amhara and Tigray. We have instructed our forces to immediately release any captured members of Fano and the Amhara Special Forces, said the TDF commander. He added his forces are doing everything in their capacity to make sure that the Amhara people are not displaced from their residence. He emphasized the need to work with the people of the Amhara and Afar regions to avoid the continuation of two regions as battlefields. Regarding collaborations with the Oromo Liberation Army, General Taddese said TDF will continue the collaboration for the sake of peace. All the people of Ethiopia should fight to pressure the enemy to leave the opposition of using forces and choose peace. General Taddese claimed around 5,000 prisoners of war have been captured, and that captured weapons in the latest engagement doubled the armament of his forces. Tigray forces are ready to continue advancing into northern region of Ethiopia. The Tigray forces said they are open to negotiations with the federal government, but are determined to continue advancing into northern Ethiopia as long as its military reinforcements continue to threaten their region. After a 5-month truce now, fighting resumed on the 24th of August between the federal army and the Tigrayan forces. According to African news sources, the Tigray force have advanced about 50 kilometers south of the Tigrayan border into the neighboring Amhara region and southeast into the Afar region in just the most recent days. We are fighting a defensive war, and we remain open to negotiations, said member of Tigray Central Command Getachew Reda in a peace briefing, again accusing the government of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed of having broken the truce observed since last March. He explained that after initially defending their positions, the Tigrayan forces launched a counteroffensive. He said Abiy continues to make masculations after masculations, miscalculations by continuing to send reinforcements, adding that Tigrayan forces will continue to neutralize them, probably driving them further and further into the Amhara region. We are not particularly interested in controlling this area, but as long as the forces unleashed against us continue to threaten the security of our people, we will continue to take the appropriate measures to neutralize them, and that will be determined where we stop, as he threatened. The Union of Tigrayans in North America calls on the international community to take measures to stop destructive military adventures of the Ethiopian government and its allies. UTNA made the call in a press statement and released to all of the world governments, international organizations, and human rights advocates as other relevant bodies. The statement noted that Abiy's regime and its allies waged a war of genocide against the people of Tigray for the last 2 years, has once again made it abundantly clear that it is not interested in peace by refusing to lift the siege, launching a mass military offensive, and through aerial bombardments of civilian targets. Abiy's forces launched an offensive on the southern front of Tigray, and on the 26th of August in 2022, bombed Ma'ala city, the capital of Tigray, and other towns, striking a kindergarten, a residential area, homes, killing 17 and injuring more than 30 people, including children. Abiy's Air Force has bombed the only working hospital in Ma'ala and an IDP camp on the 30th of August 2022. UTNA calls on the world to take concrete action immediately before Abiy Ahmed destroys Ethiopia with far-reaching consequences to the instability of the Horn of Africa at large. It urged the international community to use all of its power to immediately stop the military adventures of Abiy Ahmed's government and its allies. UTNA is a U.S.-Canada-based Tigrayan Diaspora Association engaged in advocacy and various community services as well. The Ethiopian government says to be using Ethiopian Airlines to transport soldiers and weapons in direct violation of the international aviation law. This week, the airline has been fully engaged in transporting soldiers and weapons from Addis Ababa to Samara, Lalibela, and Dessie. On the 26th and 27th of August, 3 flights of Boeing 737 and 7 Bombardier Q400 were used to transport soldiers and weapons into Samara. Yesterday, 3 flights of Boeing 737 and 3 of the Bombardier Q400 to Lalibela as well. The government was also preparing to transport 6 flights of soldiers for this morning from Addis Ababa to Lalibela, weapons to Samarra using a Boeing 737 cargo, and soldiers to Dessie using a Bombardier Q400. Aircraft tracker Gurjon's report point to the uncommon number of Ethiopian Airlines charter flights from Addis Ababa flying into the northern region of Ethiopia. Yesterday alone, two of their 737s did a total of the 6 flights to northern Ethiopia, all departing out of sight from the cargo apron. This is especially uncommon because the aircrafts are configured as a passenger aircraft, so departing from the cargo apron makes a little sense. The aircraft tracker indicated possible reasons for flying passenger aircrafts from a cargo apron, including that the flight only carries cargo and not passengers, and that the passengers boarding the flight should not be seen from the passenger terminals. The aircraft tracker said the actual number of Ethiopian Airlines charter flights to the north in recent days is likely to be much higher than recorded. The aircraft tracker Gurjon considers timing, routing, and frequency extremely highly sensitive. Sudan has summoned the Ethiopian ambassador over alleged downed plane. The Sudanese summoned Ethiopia's ambassador to Khartoum to protest press statements he made about the alleged shoot down of a plane loaded with weapons to insurgents into the Tigray region. On the 29th of August, the Ethiopian ambassador in Sudan held a press conference to reiterate the accuracy of the statement issued by the Ethiopian Air Force 5 days earlier about a plane that violated the Ethiopian airspace after crossing the border from Sudan. In a statement issued on Tuesday, the Sudanese Foreign Ministry said Ambassador Yibeltal Alamu was summoned to denounce his statements to the local media, where he claimed that the Ethiopian army downed this unidentified plane. These unfounded allegations violate the diplomatic traditions in communicating with the officials' authorities in the receiving country, said Director General of African Affairs, Ambassador Fadil Abdullah Fadil, told Ambassador Alamu according to the statement. The Foreign Ministry meant to limit its protests to the fact that the Ethiopian diplomat did not communicate with the Foreign Ministry over the plane, but instead preferred to hold a press conference. Nonetheless, this is the first time the Sudanese government has described the Ethiopian statement about the downed plane on the 24th of August as an unfounded allegation. Last week, several Sudanese officials privately played down the Ethiopian statement about the plane, but also the Sudanese government did not officially react to the allegations either. Ethiopia had several times accused the Sudanese of supporting or hosting training camps for TPLF. That concludes our news for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll be back for some more tomorrow.